focus on what do we do in life when things get difficult. We've all at some time in our life heard the phrase, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Well, is that really what you want your life to be about and what you want the character that you have developed to really portray? We're going to think about several different thoughts today so that we can decide for ourselves what we want to be like when the going gets tough. When I think back to my younger years in school when we studied different literary figures, those literary figures that stand out the most to me, one of them is Robert Frost. Perhaps you remember some of the poems that you may have studied as well, and one that stands out the most to me is his Two Roads Diverged in a Yellow Wood. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and he talks about being able to take one way or the other way. One path is taken by many people. The path is well worn. The path is well determined, and you know exactly where you're going. And then there's this other path that probably leads to the same place, but it takes a different way of getting there. There might be more bends in the road, there may be more rocks and more brush, more adventuresome, and the results might not be the same because you're taking a different route to get there. So the question becomes to the person at that Y in the road is, do I take the easy road or do I take the road that hasn't been traveled so often? I have always thought of myself as being the kind of person who takes that road less traveled. In fact, Robert Frost ends his poem by saying, "Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both." He takes it. He takes the road less traveled by, and he's thankful that he made that decision. Life is not about reading a book and learning how you are to be. Life is not about reading a book and knowing how you're supposed to act in certain situations. Life is about experiencing. Life is about learning who you are to be. So who do you want to be when the going gets tough? One of my fondest childhood memories, and some of my adult memories as well, is going on Jeep rides with my family. My dad is the kind of person who always wants to go on a new road. Now, certainly we had our favorite places that we went when we'd go camping, and year after year going to the same campgrounds, we knew some of those roads quite well. Those tended to be that road traveled well. The rocks weren't really in the way, the brush didn't fling in your face, the road was kind of smooth. We had our favorites, and they were fun. But when Dad would say, "I've always wondered where this road goes. I wonder where this road will take us," every time we went out, there was always a new road that we would travel. We never knew which way the road was going to turn, whether we would wind up and down, whether we'd be close to the edge, whether rocks would come and hit the side of the truck. We didn't know if the brush was going to flip us in the face through the window as the side view mirrors kind of flung the branches inside our windows that were rolled down. We never knew. But that was the fun of it. It was an adventure. It was something that gave us wonderful stories to tell, great memories that our family has together. In fact, one of those days was when my dad started to teach me how to drive. He thought that those dirt roads would be the best place to learn how the gas and the brake worked. Well, one of those roads less traveled by, we went on that day. We got the Jimmy stuck, so Dad had to get in the driver's seat, take over, get us unstuck so we could continue back to camp. But let me tell you, it certainly is a story. Perhaps you recall back in the early 1990s when the common phrase became about, "What would Jesus do?" with a big question mark. The question really is posing, what would Jesus do in the situation we happen to find ourselves in? People would put the bracelet on their wrist or maybe wear a necklace, put it on their book cover. You'd see it everywhere. The question posed for us so that we could turn either to Scripture or to the stories we've heard and ask, what would Jesus do if he was living in my life right now? What would he do? I want us to take that just a step further, though. The question really isn't begging for what Jesus would do in that situation. It's really helping us determine what would we do in that situation. So when things get difficult, what do you want your character to be like? When you have two decisions to make, one that's easy, one that's more difficult, which do you want to guide your character? Which do you want to make yourself who you are? I'd encourage you not to always take the easy road, although there are certainly circumstances in our lives where we want to do that. But there are also times in our lives where it's important to take a risk. It's important to move beyond the only thing that we know and find out if there's something else inside of us that can be drawn out, that not only we can learn from, but maybe we can shed that light of God to the places that we're going. Maybe you've heard of Peter Marshall. He's a famous preacher and writer, and in the stories that he told, he often challenged us to think a little differently about the way life tends to be. And one of my favorite stories that he tells, he kind of teaches us to look at oak trees and diamonds in a different way. Just let me read a real short piece of this. When we long for a life without difficulties, we want to be reminded that oaks grow strong in contrary winds and diamonds are made under pressure. Oaks grow stronger in contrary winds and diamonds become beautiful under pressure. So once again, the question is raised, which are you? Are you allowing your life to become that of a beautiful diamond, where under pressure you find what your character truly is made of, where you find the foundation of what holds you together? That is the question that is raised today. The town that I grew up in was called Thousand Oaks, and so that oak imagery is very prevalent for me. I remember looking at the oak trees all over, and what did we see but these strong trunks and strong branches to the tree, which went from one way to the other. There were curves and branches and tiers to the tree that showed such great depth and strength. And now as an adult I learned that they grow strong because of the contrary winds, because of that which fights against it. So think for yourself. What difficult places have you found your life in? And when you reflect upon those, how do you see your character being built in the midst of them? Have you seen where you've taken time to ponder the decisions you've had to make? Sometimes taking the easy road, sometimes taking the easy road and knowing you probably shouldn't have, and sometimes taking the risk and taking the more difficult, less traveled, more bumpy, more painful way, but knowing that in the contrary winds or the contrary waves of that road less traveled, you find your character not only being built, but strengthened for the rest of the journey that is to come. Thanks for joining me today. I want to invite you to take some time below the picture to make some comments on how you've chosen the road less traveled. What have you done in your life that's been able to reflect the love of God in the circumstances you've found yourself in? And as always, remember to go to Facebook. Keep me updated on how you've seen God working in your life every day. Look out for those small miracles, everyone. And remember that we can always have triumph in the midst of our trials. Have a great week.